It's official. Look who President Trump just named a terrorist group. Cities are about to burn. When you think of a terrorist, you probably think of the guys who took down the World Trade Centers, or the people responsible for any of the other suicide bombings that have taken place in the Western world over the last decade or so. We've gotten it into our heads that terrorists are only those who are religious fanatics who are willing to die for their cause. There's significant evidence, however, that there's a much more cowardly breed of terrorist growing up in our midst. First, let's discuss the true meaning of the term terrorist directly from the dictionary. A person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. It's definitely not someone that you want attending the block party or teaching your kids or serving your food. But according to the US government, that's exactly what they're doing. These terrorists are getting out of their minimum wage jobs, or leaving their college campuses, donning a ski mask and terrorizing anyone who doesn't agree with them. Given, they call themselves social justice warriors, but we've known for some time that they're terrorists, and now there's documentation to back it up. According to Politico, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are finally classifying Antifa as terrorists, since well before the August 12th rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, turned deadly. DHS has been issuing warnings about the growing likelihood of lethal violence between the left-wing anarchists and right-wing white supremacist and nationalist groups. Previously unreported documents disclosed that by April 2016, authorities believed that anarchist extremists were the primary instigators of violence at public rallies against a range of targets. They were blamed by authorities for attacks on the police, government and political institutions, along with symbols of the capitalist system, racism, social injustice and fascism, according to a confidential 2016 joint intelligence assessment by DHS and the FBI. Some of the DHS and FBI intelligence reports began flagging the Antifa protesters before the election. In one from last September, portions of which were read to Politico, DHS studied recent violent clashes at lawfully organized white supremacist events, including a June 2016 rally at the California Capitol in Sacramento organized by the Traditionalist Workers' Party and its affiliate, the Golden State Skinheads. The intelligence assessments focus less on guns than handmade weapons used by Antifa, with photos of members brandishing axe handles and shields, often with industrial-sized bolts attached to create crude bayonets. A senior state law enforcement official said, "A whole bunch of them have been deemed dangerous enough to be placed on U.S. terrorism watch lists." The FBI and DHS had no comment on that, or on any aspect of the assessments, saying they were not intended to be made public. By the spring of 2016, the anarchist groups had become so aggressive, including making armed attacks on individuals and small groups of perceived enemies, that federal officials launched a global investigation with the help of the U.S. intelligence community, according to the DHS and FBI assessment. The purpose of the investigation, according to the April 2016 assessment, to determine whether the U.S.-based anarchists might start committing terrorist bombings like their counterparts in foreign anarchist extremist movements in Greece, Italy and Mexico, possibly at the Republican and Democratic conventions that summer. Some of the Antifa activists have gone overseas to train and fight with fellow anarchist organizations, including two Turkey-based groups fighting the Islamic State, according to interviews and internet postings. Let's pause to appreciate what they're saying. There are groups of people that carry U.S. passports who are going to other countries, learning from their not-so-free cultures how to bully their fellow Americans into doing whatever these traitors want. They're apparently ready to take the training wheels off. They're ready to learn what it's like to be real-live terrorists from the big boys over in the Middle East. Politico, in their April 2016 assessment, the DHS and FBI said the anarchist groups would likely become more lethal if fascist, nationalist, racist or anti-immigrant parties obtain greater prominence or local political power in the United States, leading to anti-racist violent backlash from anarchist extremists. The assessment also said the anarchist groups could become more aggressive if they seek to retaliate violently to a violent act by a white supremacist extremist or group, they acquire more powerful weapons, or they obtain the financial means to travel abroad and learn more violent tactics. Several state law enforcement officials said that all of those accelerating factors have come to pass. And recent FBI and DHS reports confirmed they are actively monitoring conduct deemed potentially suspicious and indicative of terrorist activity by Antifa groups. The two agencies also said in their April 2016 assessment that many of the activities the groups engaged in are not within the purview of FBI and DHS collection due to civil liberties and privacy protections, including participating in training camps, holding meetings and communicating online. In another assessment this past August, DHS warned about the potential for unprecedented violence at Charlottesville. The agency also acknowledged gaps in its understanding of Antifa, saying it had only medium confidence in its assessments regarding both the affiliations among the various groups and the motivation of attackers. Said one senior New Jersey law enforcement official following the Antifa groups, "There's a lot more we don't know about these groups than what we do know about them." This is an assessment that has been long awaited by conservatives, especially those who've been attacked by these liberal henchmen. If we're trying to make an honest assessment, there's an excellent chance that many who take part in these rallies and violence aren't all that politically motivated at all, they're just violent and want something to rebel against. If you've spent any time around the late teen, early 20 crowd, you know that emotions, hormones, and anger tend to run high, and violence is a sad byproduct if not reined in. These kids have found an itch that law enforcement has been instructed to overlook, so they're milking it for all it's worth. The violence from these tiny terrorists is just like gang violence and prison violence and schoolyard violence, and people have these instincts and they'll do exactly as much as they can get away with. We'll be able to stop it when we stop letting them get away with it. Share if you think that Antifa should be punished like all the other terrorists.
Let it go.